Hey guys, tonight we're not just talking about history. We're diving headfirst into the vast, windswept steppes of ancient Eurasia, where the dust of forgotten empires still whispers tales on the wind. You're going to feel the sun on your skin, smell the dry earth, and sense the immense, silent power of a landscape that stretched further than your imagination can easily grasp. We're going to witness the creation of something truly monumental, a structure so profound in its purpose that it shaped the very ground it stood upon. And let's be real, you're about to embark on a journey that, frankly, you wouldn't survive in real life without a serious case of tetanus and a very bad hair day. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on a vast, undulating plain, the sky an impossibly huge dome above you, stretching from horizon to horizon with only the occasional wispy cloud for company. The air is dry, carrying the scent of wild grasses and distant campfires. All around you, the land rolls, seemingly endless, punctuated by low hills and the occasional stand of hardy trees. But your gaze isn't on the horizon, it's drawn to a particular rise in the land, a place where the earth itself seems to hold a deeper breath. This is where the story truly begins, where you start to grasp the concept of a kurgan, not just as a burial mound, but as an entire universe built for the dead. For the nomadic Scythian people, who galloped across these very steppes from roughly the 9th to the 1st century BC, mastering the horse like few before them, life was a constant journey. They were warriors, traders, and artisans, their world defined by movement and the rhythm of the seasons. But even for a people so deeply connected to the present moment, to the hunt, to the next pasture, there was an unwavering focus on the beyond. And this is where the kurgan steps in, a physical manifestation of their profound beliefs about death, the afterlife, and the eternal spirit of their chieftains. You see, for the Scythians, death wasn't an end, it was merely a transition, a rather significant change of address, if you will. And just like you wouldn't send your favorite influencer off on a world tour without their entire wardrobe and a fully charged phone, they certainly weren't sending their beloved chieftain into the great beyond without all the comforts and necessities he might require. A kurgan, then, isn't just a grave, it's a fully furnished eternal residence, a palatial crypt designed to ensure the chieftain's continued prosperity and influence in the spirit world. It's essentially the ultimate cosmic road trip prep, ensuring he had everything he needed for eternity, right down to the gold-plated tea set and a full stable of horses. No minibar, though, which is a bit of a bummer. You realize that the scale of this undertaking speaks volumes about the chieftain's status. This isn't for just anyone. This is for the paramount leader, the one whose wisdom guided the tribe, whose courage led them in battle, whose lineage connected them to the very ancestors who now resided in the spirit realm. His death isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a monumental event that shakes the very foundations of the tribe. And so, his final resting place must reflect that seismic shift, that enduring legacy. The kurgan is a statement, carved into the earth itself. Here lies a great one, and his power endures. The Scythians believed that the chieftain's spirit, or soul form as some scholars might call it, needed its earthly possessions to maintain its power and prestige in the afterlife. It's like, if you're a CEO in this life, you don't suddenly become an entry-level intern in the next, do you? No, you need your executive perks. So, you can imagine the sheer quantity of material wealth that would be interred with a chieftain: intricate gold ornaments, finely crafted weapons, luxurious textiles, and even the bodies of sacrificed horses and retainers. This practice gives us an incredible window into their material culture, as evidenced by the astonishingly preserved artifacts found in the Pazyryk kurgans in Siberia, where permafrost acted like a giant, ancient freezer, keeping everything from felt wall hangings to tattooed skin perfectly intact for millennia. It's like finding a perfectly preserved ancient Tupperware container, except it's a human, and he's covered in remarkably detailed animal tattoos. As you ponder this, you sense the communal heartbeat behind such a colossal project. Building a kurgan isn't just about honoring the dead, it's about unifying the living. It's a collective act of devotion, a shared burden that reinforces tribal bonds and social hierarchy. Every person, from the lowliest laborer to the most skilled craftsman, has a role to play. It's a project that demands years, sometimes even decades, of sustained effort. Forget your weekend DIY project. This was DIY on a scale that would make modern construction crews weep openly into their safety helmets. It wasn't just physical labor. It was a profound spiritual undertaking, a testament to the tribe's collective will and their unwavering belief system. You begin to understand that the Kurgan isn't merely a tomb, it's a sacred mountain, a man-made peak connecting the terrestrial world to the celestial, the living to the dead. It's believed that the very act of raising the earth created a conduit, a pathway for the chieftain's spirit to ascend and join the ancestors, ensuring their continued protection and guidance for the tribe. It's a landmark, too, a permanent fixture in a nomadic landscape, marking territory, serving as a beacon for future generations, a silent, enduring monument to a chieftain's reign and a people's resilience. Archaeologists still debate the exact mystical significance of the mound's shape and orientation, but its function as a spiritual anchor is undeniable. The Kurgan, in essence, is the Scythian cosmos in miniature. It's a place where the earthly realm meets the divine, where the past informs the present, and where the future is secured through the veneration of those who came before. It's a powerful statement of identity, a declaration of sovereignty over the land, and a profound expression of their unique relationship with death and eternity. And as you stand there, feeling the wind whip your hair, you realize that to truly understand the Scythians, you must first understand the Kurgan, for it is not just a burial mound, but the beating heart of their entire civilization. The vast, undulating expanse of the steppe stretches before you, an endless tapestry of green and gold beneath a sky that feels impossibly wide. You trudge alongside the chieftain's most trusted advisors, men whose faces are etched with the wisdom of countless seasons and the solemn weight of their current mission. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of wild herbs and distant dust, a familiar perfume of freedom that now feels tinged with a profound gravity. The great chieftain, a man whose presence was as imposing as a mountain, has departed from this world. And now, the most crucial task begins, finding his final, eternal resting place. This isn't just about digging a hole and covering it up, oh no. This is the Scythian way, and for them, death isn't an ending, but a journey. And every journey, even the eternal kind, needs a proper departure lounge, preferably one with a fantastic view. You see, a kurgan isn't just a grave, it's a monument, a landmark, a beacon visible for leagues around, proclaiming the power and legacy of the one interred within. It's the ultimate mic drop in the world of ancient real estate. So you walk, and walk, and walk some more. Days blend into a rhythm of sun-drenched mornings and stardusted nights. Your legs ache, a dull throb that becomes a constant companion, but the elders, despite their years, seem tireless, their gazes constantly sweeping the horizon. They are looking for the spot, a place of profound significance. It must be elevated, naturally, because who wants to be buried in a ditch? The higher, the better, symbolically speaking, bringing the departed chieftain closer to the sky gods, to Tingri himself. Imagine the view from up there. No wonder they called it the roof of the world. Sometimes. You pause on a ridge, the wind whipping at your tunic. One of the elders, a man named Kairat with eyes like ancient stones, points with a gnarled finger. There, he murmurs, his voice a low rumble. You follow his gaze to a distant rise, a gentle swell in the land that seems to hum with an unseen energy. It's not the highest point around, not by a long shot, but it possesses a certain subtle majesty, a quiet authority that resonates even from afar. It's like finding that perfect, slightly elevated corner table in a crowded restaurant, prime viewing, but not ostentatious. The scouting party, a small, dedicated group including a couple of keen-eyed warriors and a shaman whose face is painted with intricate symbols, converges on the chosen area. You observe them meticulously. They don't just eyeball it. Oh no, this is a full-on ancient geological survey. They tap the ground with their staffs, listening to the resonance. They dig small test pits, not just a shovelful, but deep enough to understand the strata beneath. You watch as they crumble handfuls of soil between their fingers, sniffing it, even tasting it sometimes, much to your silent amusement. You'd think they were trying to identify the vintage of a fine wine, not just dirt. Too much clay here, Kyrat grunts, tossing a handful of reddish earth aside. It will hold water, and the ground will shift with the freeze and thaw. Not stable enough. You nod, pretending to understand the nuances of ancient soil mechanics. Apparently, finding the perfect dirt for a kurgan is a bit like baking. Too much of one ingredient, and the whole thing collapses. Or, in this case, washes away in the next big rainstorm, which would be incredibly embarrassing for an eternal resting place. They move on, always seeking that delicate balance. The ground needs to be firm enough to support the immense weight of the earth that will be piled upon it, yet not so rocky that excavation becomes an impossible task. It needs good drainage, because a chieftain's eternal rest should not be interrupted by soggy socks, even if they're made of gold and felt. Historians still argue whether the Scythians prioritized spiritual omens over practical considerations like soil stability, or if it was a delicate balance, a harmonious blend of the pragmatic and the profound. Looking at these men, you suspect it was a bit of both, a bit like trying to find a perfectly flat spot for a tent that also happens to have excellent cell service. The shaman, meanwhile, is less concerned with soil composition and more with the whispers of the land. He walks slowly, his eyes half closed, occasionally stopping to pick up a stone or examine a cluster of wildflowers. He's looking for signs, for omens. Perhaps the flight path of a particular bird, or the way the wind sighs through a certain patch of reeds. You recall a quirky tidbit you once heard. Some Scythian tribes believe that a site was truly blessed if a certain type of rare, iridescent beetle was found burrowing there, as it was thought to be a messenger from the underworld. You surreptitiously scan the ground, half expecting to see a shimmering insect scuttling by, but alas, no glowing beetles today. Just a lot of very ordinary, very brown dirt. After several days of this meticulous reconnaissance, they narrowed down the options to 3 promising locations. Each has its merits. One is higher, offering unparalleled visibility, but the ground seems a bit too loose, too prone to erosion. Another is slightly lower but nestled in a natural basin that feels incredibly secure and protected, though it might suffer from drainage issues during the spring thaws. The third, the one Kyrat first pointed out, seems to be the Goldilocks choice, just right. It's elevated enough to be seen for miles, but with a gentle slope that suggests good drainage, and the test pits reveal a solid, compactable soil beneath a thin layer of topsoil. The decision isn't made lightly. The elders gather at the favored site as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple. A small, sacred fire is lit, its smoke curling upwards into the vastness. They sit in silence for a long time, communing with the spirits of the land, with their ancestors, and with the spirit of the departed chieftain. You feel the weight of their contemplation, the immense responsibility resting on their shoulders. This isn't just a burial, it's the founding of a new sacred space, a permanent anchor for a people who are otherwise constantly on the move. It's a mainstream historical fact that while Scythians were largely nomadic horse archers, their kurgans were fixed, monumental expressions of their identity and power, tying them to specific territories even as they roamed. It's almost like they were saying, "Yeah, we move around a lot, but don't forget where we keep our most important stuff." Finally, Kyrat speaks, his voice low but firm. "This is the place," he declares, his hand sweeping across the chosen rise. "The earth here is strong, the spirits are welcoming, and it will stand as a testament for all time." The other elders nod, their faces reflecting a quiet certainty. The shaman begins a low chant, sprinkling a handful of dried herbs into the fire, their pungent scent mingling with the cool evening air. You look around, trying to see the future in this quiet patch of steppe. Right now, it's just grass and earth, wind and sky. But soon, very soon, this spot will be transformed. It will become the focal point of an immense undertaking, a testament to collective will and enduring belief. The sheer scale of what is about to happen here is almost unfathomable. But for now, the first, most crucial step has been taken. The sacred ground has been chosen. Now, all that's left is to move a mountain. Or, build one. Easy peasy. The crisp morning air, still cool from the pre-dawn chill, carries the scent of damp earth and something else, something smoky and herbal. You stand, a silent observer on the high ground, the chosen site for what will become a monumental testament. Just yesterday, this was merely a promising hillock. Today, it's a stage. The Scythians, ever pragmatic yet deeply spiritual, don't just start digging willy-nilly, you see. Oh no, that would be far too modern. No permits, no planning committee meetings, no endless environmental impact assessments. Just raw, unbridled faith and a whole lot of elbow grease. But first, the rituals. A hush falls over the assembled crowd. Warriors, their faces stoic, stand alongside women and children, their colorful tunics a stark contrast to the muted greens and browns of the steppe. In the center of the designated area, a group of figures emerges, cloaked in robes of undyed wool, adorned with intricate bronze plaques that shimmer faintly in the nascent sunlight. These are the shamans, the spiritual conduits, and their presence is palpable, like a sudden drop in temperature before a storm. You feel a prickle on your skin, not from cold, but from an ancient energy stirring. They move with deliberate slowness, their steps measured, almost like a slow-motion dance. One, older than the rest, with a long, braided beard, carries a shallow wooden bowl. From it, he sprinkles a fine, white powder onto the ground in a precise pattern, tracing lines that seem to hum with unseen purpose. Is it ground bone? Crushed chalk? Historians still argue whether these initial markings were purely symbolic or if they served as a practical guide, a kind of ancient blueprint for the mound's colossal circumference. Whatever its composition, it certainly looks more dramatic than spray paint. And probably smells better than fresh asphalt. As the lines are drawn, a low, guttural chant begins, picked up by the other shamans, then by the assembled people. It's a rhythmic, undulating sound, a blend of deep hums and sharp, percussive clicks, like stones being struck together. You can almost feel the vibrations through the soles of your feet. This isn't just noise, it's a petition, a plea to the unseen forces of the earth and sky. They're asking for permission, for blessing, for stability. It's the Scythian equivalent of getting your building permits approved, just with more chanting and fewer forms. Next, a small fire is kindled at the very heart of the marked circle. The smoke, thick with the scent of burning herbs, wormwood, perhaps, or a local variant of sage, rises in a thin, ethereal column, twisting and turning as if communicating directly with the heavens. This smoke, they believe, purifies the site, driving away malevolent spirits and inviting benevolent ones. It's a bit like airing out a dusty old attic before you move in, only instead of cobwebs, you're clearing out bad vibes and the occasional grumpy earth elemental. Then comes the offering. A young, unblemished horse, its coat a rich chestnut, is led forward, its eyes wide but calm. Its sacrifice isn't gruesome, thankfully. With a swift, practiced motion, a shaman ends its life, and its blood is collected in a ceremonial bowl. This vital fluid, a symbol of life and power, is then poured onto the freshly marked ground, soaking into the soil. It's a profound act, a literal blood oath to the earth, cementing the bond between the living, the dead, and the land itself. The Scythians held horses in incredibly high regard, seeing them not just as animals but as companions in life and the afterlife. Offering such a cherished creature highlights the immense significance of this burial. It's like sacrificing your prized vintage sports car for a new driveway, if that driveway was going to be your eternal home. Once the initial consecration is complete, the mood shifts subtly. The intense spiritual focus gives way to a more practical, yet still reverent, atmosphere. Now, the meticulous ground preparations begin. You see groups of men, their sinewy muscles rippling under their leather tunics, begin to clear the site. Small trees, stubborn bushes, and any significant rocks are systematically removed. They use simple tools, bronze axes, sturdy wooden shovels, and their own hands. It's slow work, deliberate, ensuring the ground is as level and clear as possible. Imagine trying to prepare a foundation for a skyscraper with garden tools, and you're getting close to the scale of the early effort. The entire area, spanning what seems like acres, is carefully leveled. Any undulations in the natural terrain are smoothed out, not with modern earthmovers, but by sheer human will and a lot of grunt work. Soil is shifted from higher spots to lower ones, compacted by the rhythmic stomping of feet. You can almost hear the soft thud-thud-thud as the ground is tamped down, layer by layer, creating a stable, even base for the colossal mound that will eventually rise. It's the ancient equivalent of laying down a perfectly flat subfloor before you build your house, only your house is going to be big enough to cast a shadow over a small village. Beneath where the very center of the mound will be, a shallow depression is excavated. This isn't the deep burial chamber yet. That comes later, much later. This initial digging is more akin to digging a large, wide trench, perhaps a meter or two deep, outlining the primary footprint of the central burial structure. It's like digging the footings for a building, ensuring that the heavy weight of the eventual mound will be evenly distributed and won't simply sink into the softer topsoil. This initial pit also serves as a boundary, a sacred enclosure within the larger sacred enclosure, marking the most hallowed ground where the chieftain will ultimately rest. You might even spot some early instances of what some historians call foundation deposits, small, symbolic offerings of pottery shards or animal bones placed within this initial trench, almost like a time capsule for the spirits. A quirky tidbit, perhaps, but it shows just how thoroughly they imbued every stage with meaning. The air fills with the sounds of labor, the rhythmic scrape of shovels against earth, the grunts of exertion, the occasional shouted instruction. Despite the arduous nature of the work, there's an underlying sense of purpose, a quiet determination. This isn't just a job, it's a communal act of devotion, a shared burden that unites the tribe. Everyone, from the lowliest commoner to the most decorated warrior, understands their part in this monumental undertaking. It's like a very, very long, very dusty community picnic, where instead of bringing a casserole, everyone brings a shovel and their deepest respect for the deceased leader. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows, you notice the meticulousness. No stone is left unturned, no clump of earth untamped. The Scythians understood that a solid foundation was paramount for a structure of this immense scale. A great kurgan, sometimes reaching heights of 20 meters and diameters over 100 meters, required an engineering feat that would impress even modern-day civil engineers, probably making them mutter about soil compaction ratios and the sheer lack of heavy machinery. They are literally laying the groundwork, not just for a pile of dirt, but for an eternal monument, a silent mountain of memory. This initial phase, often overlooked, is arguably the most critical. Without this painstaking preparation, the entire edifice would be doomed to instability, a mere mound of earth destined to crumble back into the steppe. And nobody wants their eternal resting place to turn into a glorified mudslide, right? The air, which moments ago hummed with the quiet reverence of ancient rites, now begins to thrum with a different kind of energy. It's the energy of impending labor, a vast, collective exhalation before the real work begins. You stand on the edge of the sacred ground, the chosen site for the chieftain's eternal rest, and watch as the preliminary preparations give way to the truly monumental task, the gathering of the very earth, stone, and wood that will form this colossal monument. Imagine, for a moment, the sheer scale of what's about to unfold. We're not talking about a weekend gardening project here. This isn't just a few bags of topsoil and some decorative rocks. This is an undertaking that would make modern construction crews scratch their heads and wonder if they could just order it all on Amazon Prime. The Scythians, however, had no such conveniences. Their Amazon was the vast steppe itself, and their delivery service was the collective muscle of an entire community. First, the earth. Oh, the earth. It is everywhere, of course, but not just any earth will do. The core of the kurgan, its very heart, needs specific types of soil, stable, compactable, able to withstand the elements for centuries. You see groups fanning out across the surrounding landscape, their figures gradually diminishing in the distance like scattered ants. They are not merely digging holes, they are systematically excavating, choosing their spots with an almost intuitive understanding of the land. The tools are surprisingly simple, yet effective. You observe men and women wielding sturdy wooden shovels, their edges hardened by fire, and antler picks, sharp and durable, used to loosen the soil. It's a rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound, the dull thud of wood against earth, the scrape of antler, punctuated by grunts of effort. As the soil is loosened, it's scooped into an array of containers. Some use large, tightly woven baskets, carried on backs or slung between two people. Others use more ingenious methods. You see individuals filling large, crudely fashioned bags made from animal hides, their rough edges still bearing the marks of their former owners. These leather sacks, once filled, are surprisingly efficient for dragging earth short distances or for carrying on shoulders. It's a surprisingly effective, if incredibly low-tech, way to move bulk material. The dust begins to rise, a fine, ochre haze that hangs in the air, catching the sunlight. It coats everything: hair, clothes, eyelashes. You taste it on your tongue, gritty and earthy. Lines of people form, a human conveyor belt, passing the filled baskets and bags from hand to hand, or carrying them directly to the growing base of the mound. It's a slow, painstaking process. You know, if you ever complain about emptying a single wheelbarrow of dirt, just remember these folks. They're basically building a mountain with what looks like glorified salad bowls and repurposed animal costumes. The sheer volume is staggering. Think of a modern football stadium, filled to the brim with dirt. Now imagine several of them. That's the kind of scale we're talking about for a truly great kurgan. Historians still debate the precise logistics of how such massive quantities of specific types of earth were sourced and transported from potentially distant areas, but what is clear is that it required an unprecedented level of communal organization and effort. It wasn't just about digging, it was about ensuring a continuous supply chain of raw material. As the earth continues to flow in, like a slow-motion, earthen river, your attention shifts to the gathering of stone. While earth forms the bulk, stone provides the skeleton, the underlying strength. It's needed for reinforcement, for the internal structures of the burial chamber, and potentially for drainage systems to protect the precious contents within. Unlike the ubiquitous earth, suitable stone is not found everywhere. You witness small groups venturing further afield, often to rocky outcrops or riverbeds where the water has tumbled and smoothed the stones. The sound here is different: the sharp crack of hammers on rock, the metallic clang of stone tools against harder surfaces, the groaning protest of levers as men try to pry loose larger boulders. These aren't finely cut, dressed stones like those of the Egyptians or Greeks. These are rough, natural stones, some no bigger than your fist, others so large they require a dozen strong men to even budge them. Transporting these heavier materials is another challenge entirely. For the smaller stones, baskets and hide bags suffice, but for the larger ones, ingenuity is key. You see logs used as rollers, placed beneath a massive stone, allowing it to be slowly, painstakingly shifted across the ground. Thick ropes, likely made from animal sinew or braided plant fibers, are tied around the larger rocks, and teams of men, straining and grunting, pull them towards the site. It's a testament to their brute strength and collective determination. And if you thought moving your furniture was a workout, try rolling a boulder the size of a small yak across uneven terrain. No wonder rock solid was such a popular compliment back then. You can almost feel the ache in their muscles, the burning in their lungs, just watching them. Finally, there's the wood. Wood, too, is indispensable. It will be used for the inner structure of the burial chamber, for supporting beams, for scaffolding as the mound grows taller, and for countless tools and implements. The sounds of axes echo from the distant groves of trees, a steady, rhythmic thwack thwack thwack. These are not delicate, ornamental trees, but sturdy, mature specimens, chosen for their strength and straightness. Once felled, the logs are stripped of their branches, leaving long, heavy trunks. Moving these is another Herculean feat. Some are dragged directly by teams of men or even by yoked oxen, if they have them. Others are floated down any available waterways, though the steppe is not exactly known for its navigable rivers. You see men heaving logs onto improvised sledges, pulling them across the ground, leaving deep furrows in their wake. It makes you wonder, did they have a Scythian version of OSHA? Because between the falling trees and the rolling logs, this definitely wasn't a job for the faint of heart. Or anyone prone to splinters. The air now carries a mix of scents: the sharp, metallic tang of sweat, the dusty smell of churned earth, the fresh, resinous aroma of newly cut wood, and the faint, musky scent of animal hides. It's a primal symphony of labor. This isn't just about constructing a mound, it's about mobilizing every available resource, every able body, every ounce of collective will. The Scythians, a nomadic people often associated with their equestrian skills and fearsome warrior culture, were also, in moments like these, master logisticians and engineers of the most basic, yet profound, kind. They understood that the greatness of their leader, and the strength of their beliefs, would be measured not just in gold and glory, but in the sheer tonnage of earth, stone, and wood they could pile up against the sky. And watching this vast, slow, deliberate gathering, you begin to truly grasp the meaning of monumental effort. The air, still cool from the pre-dawn, hums with a new kind of anticipation, a low thrum that vibrates not from the ground, but from the collective breath of thousands. You watch as the first rays of the sun, like a slow-motion spotlight, begin to illuminate the vast, open steppe around the chosen mound site. It's no longer just a place where earth and rock gather, it's a magnet drawing humanity. You perceive the intricate organization, the sheer, staggering scale of mobilizing a workforce that seems to stretch to the very horizon. It begins subtly. Distant horn calls, deep and resonant, echo across the grasslands, carrying messages from encampment to encampment. These aren't war horns, they're summoning calls, a deep, guttural invitation that, for many, feels more like an inescapable command. You watch as small groups coalesce into larger contingents, streaming towards the central site like tributaries feeding a mighty river. From every direction they come, the lean, leather-clad warriors, their long hair braided with simple elegance, often carrying not their usual bows and arrows, but the stout, broad shovels crafted just for this purpose. Their fierce, sometimes intimidating, countenances are softened by a shared sense of duty, or perhaps, a resigned acceptance of the task ahead. Then there are the common folk, the herders, the farmers, the artisans, the families who tend the smaller, less prestigious flocks. You see women, strong and capable, their hands used to the rhythm of daily life on the steppe, now preparing to join the lines. Children, too, though mostly kept at the edges, their bright eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination at the monumental human tide. This isn't just a tribal effort. It feels like a national project, a grand undertaking that pulls at the fabric of Scythian society itself. And when I say pulls, I mean it in the kindest, most euphemistic way possible, because while there's certainly a communal spirit, let's be honest, nobody's exactly volunteering for a year of backbreaking labor just for fun. It's a bit like being told your company is having a mandatory team-building exercise that involves digging a really, really big hole. You smile, you nod, and you start digging. The sheer diversity of the workforce is striking. You see men and women from different Scythian clans, identifiable by subtle variations in their attire or the patterns on their felt hats. But you also notice faces that are distinctly not Scythian, the more subdued expressions of subjugated peoples, perhaps, or even captured individuals from recent skirmishes, now pressed into service. Historians still argue whether the bulk of the Kurgan construction labor was voluntary communal effort or largely coerced, forced labor, but observing the subtle differences in their demeanor, you get the distinct impression it was probably a bit of both, a kind of ancient. You're either with us or you're still with us, just less enthusiastically. It's a pragmatic approach, really. You've got all these extra hands, might as well put them to good use, right? Think of it as the ultimate ancient human resources strategy. Welcome to the team! Your onboarding involves moving mountains. Literally. As the sun climbs higher, the organization becomes clearer. The warriors, particularly the more seasoned ones, don't just carry shovels. They become overseers, their voices, accustomed to barking commands on the battlefield, now directing lines of laborers. You see them moving with an almost military precision, establishing work zones, marking out paths, and assigning specific tasks. There's a hierarchy, an unspoken chain of command that flows from the chieftain himself, through his trusted advisors, down to these warrior foremen. It's a fascinating display of ancient project management, without a single Gantt chart or PowerPoint presentation in sight. Though you do wonder if someone, somewhere, has a really long scroll with tiny stick figures on it, just to keep track. The shamans, too, play a crucial role. They move among the assembling masses, not directing labor, but performing rituals, chanting, and offering blessings. Their presence is a constant reminder that this is not merely an engineering feat, it is a sacred act. They sprinkle offerings, light small fires, and murmur incantations that seem to bind the disparate individuals into a single, purposeful entity. It's the ancient equivalent of a motivational speaker, only with more smoke and animal entrails. And probably a much higher success rate, given the stakes. The logistical challenge of feeding and housing such a multitude is immense. Temporary encampments, sprawling and bustling, have sprung up around the site. Smoke rises from countless cooking fires, carrying the scent of roasted meat and simmering stews. Large communal tents, fashioned from felt and hide, provide rudimentary shelter. You see wagons arriving, laden with provisions, dried meat, sacks of grain, skins of fermented mare's milk, kumis, the staple drink of the steppe. This isn't a short-term picnic, this is a sustained effort, and the support infrastructure is as vital as the laborers themselves. It's a mainstream historical fact that large-scale construction projects in ancient societies, from the Egyptian pyramids to the Roman aqueducts, required sophisticated logistical planning for feeding and housing thousands of workers, demonstrating a level of administrative complexity often underestimated. The Scythians, though nomadic, clearly possessed this capacity when the occasion demanded. The day settles into a rhythmic pattern. Drums begin to beat, a slow, steady pulse that quickly becomes the heartbeat of the entire operation. It's not the frenzied beat of war, but a deep, hypnotic rhythm, setting the pace for the work. You hear the collective grunt as a heavy basket of earth is lifted, the rhythmic scrape of shovels against the ground, the murmur of voices, and the occasional sharp cry of an overseer. This isn't just about moving dirt, it's about synchronization. Imagine trying to get thousands of people, most of whom probably just want to go home and nap, to work in unison. It's a marvel of human coordination, powered by a mix of fear, faith, and the sheer desire to get it over with. You notice a peculiar detail. Some of the overseers carry long, slender staffs topped with small, carved figures of animals, often a stag or a griffin. These aren't just decorative, they're used for signaling. A specific movement of the staff, a particular tap on the ground, or a series of gestures communicates instructions to groups hundreds of yards away, cutting through the din of human activity. It's a surprisingly effective, low-tech communication system, like a really old-school walkie-talkie, only without the batteries. One quirky tidbit you learn is that these animal-headed staffs were sometimes adorned with small bells or rattling elements, creating a subtle, almost subliminal sound that reinforced the visual commands, a kind of ancient ASMR for getting things done. It's a testament to their ingenuity, making the vast, sprawling site feel a little less chaotic. The sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues, but the work continues. Torches are lit, casting flickering shadows that dance across the faces of the laborers, making them seem almost spectral. The air grows cooler, but the heat of exertion, the dust, and the sheer press of bodies keep you warm. You realize that this mobilization isn't just a one-time event. It's a continuous, rolling process. As some groups tire, others are rotated in. There's a constant flow, a living, breathing machine of human effort dedicated to a single, colossal purpose. The scale of it is truly humbling, a testament to what a society can achieve when it throws its entire collective will, and every available pair of hands, at a single goal. Even if that goal is just to make a really big dirt pile. You stand on the edge of the designated site, a vast, cleared circle of earth, now a pulsating hub of human endeavor. The air, already warm with the morning sun, begins to thicken with a fine, ochre dust, a telltale sign of the colossal undertaking that has just truly begun. From every direction, lines of figures, like tireless worker ants, converge on the central point. They carry baskets, some woven from tough reeds, others fashioned from stretched and dried animal hides, each heavy with the dark, rich soil gathered from the surrounding plains. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump of bare feet on packed earth, interspersed with the occasional grunt of effort or a sharp, shouted command, forms the nascent heartbeat of the emerging monument. This isn't a chaotic free-for-all, it's an orchestrated ballet of brute force. You see the first layers of earth being painstakingly moved and piled, not just haphazardly dumped, but carefully spread and leveled. Imagine the base of a truly enormous cake, but made of dirt, and each ingredient is brought by hand. The first few meters of the mound's vast circumference are now being laid down, defining the colossal footprint it will eventually occupy. It's a slow, deliberate process, each basketful of earth adding only the most infinitesimal fraction to the growing mass, yet collectively, the impact is undeniable. The ground beneath your feet, once flat, now begins to undulate, rising ever so slightly. You watch as groups of laborers, their backs already glistening with sweat, empty their loads onto the designated areas. One group might be laying down the outer ring, another filling in the intersections of what will become the broad, sloping base. It's like watching a human-powered conveyor belt, only infinitely slower and much more prone to spontaneous bouts of heavy breathing. Honestly, if this were a modern construction site, the health and safety inspector would be having a complete meltdown. No hard hats, no steel-toed boots, just raw grit and determination. It makes your average gym workout look like a leisurely stroll through a park. The sun climbs higher, intensifying its gaze, and the dust, now a constant companion, settles on everything, on your skin, on their hair, even coating the leaves of distant shrubs with a uniform layer of brown. The Scythians, you notice, have an almost intuitive understanding of the earth itself. They don't just dump the soil, they seem to feel it, assessing its moisture content, its consistency. You see some workers using simple wooden mallets, or their own feet to tamp down the freshly laid earth, an early form of compaction. This initial tamping is crucial for the stability of the entire structure, ensuring that the base is firm and less prone to settling unevenly later on. Historians still debate the precise methods of compaction used in these early stages. Was it simply the immense weight of subsequent layers? Or did they actively stomp and tamp the earth, perhaps with specific tools or even by driving livestock over it, to ensure its foundational integrity? The answers are often lost to the sands of time, but the results speak for themselves. The sheer scale of the undertaking starts to sink in. This isn't a small burial mound for a common warrior. This is for a chieftain, a king among his people, and the kurgan will reflect his stature. You feel the collective rhythm of their labor, a silent, powerful pulse. The air is filled with the soft rustle of dry earth being poured from baskets, the thud as it hits the ground, and the low, murmuring conversations that drift on the breeze. There's no music, no fancy machinery, just the raw, unadorned sounds of humanity working in unison. It's a surprisingly meditative soundscape, if you ignore the nagging thought of how many splinters you'd get doing this yourself. As the first layers accumulate, the true diameter of the kurgan's base becomes clear. It's enormous, far wider than you might have imagined, encompassing a significant portion of the hilltop. This wide base is essential, providing the stable foundation for the immense weight that will eventually be piled on top. Think of it like building a pyramid. You start with a massive footprint to support the towering structure above. Mainstream historical fact: some of the largest Scythian kurgans, such as the Great Bliznytsa Kurgan in what is now Ukraine, reached heights of over 15 meters and diameters exceeding 100 meters, requiring hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of earth to be moved. The initial layers, therefore, are defining the very edges of what will become a small, man-made mountain. The workers, despite the arduous nature of their task, move with a certain stoicism. There are no complaints, no visible signs of rebellion against the endless physical demand. Perhaps it's the profound spiritual significance of the task, or perhaps it's simply the Scythian way. You notice how different groups, perhaps specific clans or families, work in distinct sections, their collective efforts merging seamlessly into the larger whole. There's a subtle competition, a quiet pride in contributing to such an important project. It's less about individual glory and more about the communal achievement. One day, future generations will look at this mound and know that their ancestors, their people, built this. The initial shaping of the base is critical. It's not just a pile, it's a carefully engineered structure, even at this early stage. The outer edges begin to slope gently upwards, creating the first contours of the mound. You can almost visualize the final form, a perfectly symmetrical dome, rising majestically against the sky. But for now, it's just the very beginning, a burgeoning disk of dark earth, growing slowly, almost imperceptibly, with each basketful. It's like watching a giant, terrestrial mushroom slowly emerge from the ground, only instead of spores, it's fueled by sweat and muscle. This initial phase, while seemingly simple, is foundational. Any miscalculation here, any instability in these first layers, could compromise the entire structure. The ground beneath you vibrates with the constant activity, a low hum that resonates through your very bones. You find yourself falling into the rhythm of it all, the repetitive motion of bodies, the steady flow of earth. It's hypnotic, almost trance-inducing, a testament to the primal power of human collective effort. The sun continues its slow arc across the sky, marking the passage of time in the lengthening shadows. The first day of true construction is drawing to a close, and the base of the great kurgan, though still low, has begun its inexorable rise from the steppe. It's a subtle change, but a profound one, as the earth itself is transformed by the will of a people. You stand at the lip of the vast, freshly excavated pit, a gaping maw in the earth that seems to swallow the very light of the high-steppe sun. It's cooler down there, almost invitingly so, a stark contrast to the relentless warmth above. This isn't just a hole, it's the future heart of a mountain, carved out by thousands of hands, pickaxes, and simple shovels made from bone and hardened wood. A gentle, earthy scent rises, a rich aroma of damp soil and ancient potential, like the smell of a forgotten cellar after a spring rain. You begin your descent, not down a precarious rope ladder, thankfully, but along a wide, gradually sloping ramp carved directly into the earth. It's surprisingly stable, though your boots still kick up little clouds of fine dust with each step. The air grows heavier, cooler, and the sounds from above, the distant shouts, the creak of timber, the rhythmic thud of earth being compacted, begin to fade, replaced by a more intimate symphony of activity. Here, deep in the earth, the clang of a metal tool against rock echoes with a surprising crispness, and the low murmur of voices seems to carry further, amplified by the earthen walls. It's like stepping into the world's most intense, subterranean construction site, minus the hard hats and high-vis vests. Though, honestly, a little glow-in-the-dark paint wouldn't go amiss down here. Just saying. As you move deeper, the light shifts. The bright glare from the surface gives way to a softer, more diffused glow from strategically placed braziers and oil lamps, casting long, dancing shadows that play tricks on your eyes. You pass sweating, muscular men, their bodies caked in dust and grime, hauling heavy timbers, their grunts a steady rhythm. Others chip away at the earth walls with almost surgical precision, shaping the raw ground. This isn't just digging, it's sculpting. You reach the bottom, a vast, flat expanse where the true work of crafting the chieftain's eternal resting place is underway. The central area, where the burial chamber will reside, has been meticulously leveled and compacted, forming a solid, unyielding floor. Around you, the walls of the pit rise, a patchwork of different soil layers, each telling a story of millennia of deposition. It's a bit like looking at a geological cross-section, but with a lot more human activity. The air here carries the distinct scent of freshly cut wood, sharp and resinous, mingling with the earthy smell. You see why the Scythians, particularly those in the northern reaches, were masters of timber construction for their burial chambers. This isn't just a historical fact, it's a living, breathing demonstration. Massive logs, stripped of their bark, lie waiting, some already being hoisted into position by teams of men using thick ropes and ingeniously simple levers. It's a testament to brute force and clever leverage, a kind of ancient CrossFit that would make any modern gym-goer weep. No fancy machines, just raw, collective power. The chamber itself is beginning to take shape in the very center of this excavated core. It's not just a simple box. It's an intricate, multi-room structure, designed to house not only the chieftain but also his most prized possessions, his retinue, and even his horses for the journey to the afterlife. You watch as skilled carpenters, their hands calloused and precise, fit huge, squared-off timbers together. They're using sophisticated joinery techniques, mortise and tenon joints, dovetails, that would impress any master craftsman today. These aren't just stacked logs, they're interlocked, creating an incredibly strong, self-supporting structure. The walls are being built first, log by log, rising steadily. Each timber is carefully selected, planed, and then meticulously fitted to its neighbor. The gaps, even the tiniest ones, are filled with a mixture of clay and fine earth, pounded in with mallets, creating a remarkably tight seal. This isn't just for structural integrity, it's about creating an impenetrable barrier, a sealed environment. It's almost like they're trying to build a giant, wooden time capsule. And in a way, they are. You notice a peculiar detail. Some of the timber sections appear to be lined with layers of felt, dyed in vibrant, earthy tones. This isn't merely decorative. Historians still argue whether this felt lining was primarily for insulation, helping to maintain a stable internal temperature, or if it had a more profound ritualistic significance, perhaps symbolizing the chieftain's nomadic tents or offering a soft, protective embrace for his eternal slumber. Given that some of the most incredibly preserved Scythian burials, like those found in the permafrost of Pazyryk, owe their remarkable state to the cold, dry conditions within these sealed timber chambers, it's clear they understood the importance of creating a stable microclimate. Imagine finding perfectly preserved felt carpets, and even tattooed skin thousands of years later, all because they built a really good wooden box. It's like ancient refrigeration, but way more stylish. As the walls of the chamber rise, so too does the complexity. You see smaller, separate compartments being partitioned off within the main structure. These are for the chieftain's prized possessions, golden artifacts gleaming softly in the torchlight, intricately carved wooden vessels, and weapons adorned with animal motifs. One section is clearly designed for the horses, a crucial element of a Scythian burial, signifying power, wealth, and companionship in the afterlife. The sheer dedication to providing for the chieftain's continued journey is palpable. The roof of the chamber is perhaps the most challenging part of the construction. It needs to bear the unimaginable weight of the entire kurgan that will eventually pile above it. Here, the largest, stoutest timbers are brought in, some so massive they require dozens of men to maneuver. They are laid across the top of the walls, forming massive rafters. On top of these, smaller logs are placed side by side, creating a solid wooden ceiling. And then, for added reinforcement, layers of heavy stone slabs are carefully lowered onto the timber framework. Each slab is painstakingly positioned, often requiring a team of men to inch it into place using rollers and levers, a slow, methodical dance of strength and precision. It's like watching a giant, ancient Jenga game, but with much higher stakes. One wrong move, and it's not just the game over, it's the entire project. Once the timber and stone roof is in place, another layer of protection begins. A thick, impermeable layer of clay is meticulously spread over the entire surface, pressed down firmly to create a watertight seal. This clay, often mixed with straw or plant fibers for added strength, is then covered with a layer of compacted earth, which is then further reinforced with more stone and timber. It's a multi-layered defense, designed not just to support the weight, but to keep out moisture, burrowing animals, and perhaps most importantly, future grave robbers. They're building a fortress from the inside out. The air inside the chamber, even before it's fully sealed, feels different. It's cool, still, and carries a sense of profound solemnity. The flickering torchlight illuminates the smooth, planed surfaces of the wood, the subtle grain patterns, and the faint chisel marks left by the craftsman. There's a quiet intensity to the work, a palpable sense of purpose. Every swing of the mallet, every grunt of effort, every precise fit of timber against timber, is a contribution to something monumental, something eternal. You can almost hear the soft thump-thump-thump as more clay is packed around the edges, sealing off any potential ingress. As the final structural elements are put into place, you realize the sheer scale of the engineering feat. They're not just building a tomb, they're building an underground vault designed to last for millennia, a testament to their belief in an enduring afterlife and the chieftain's everlasting power. The chamber, now largely complete in its raw form, stands as a sturdy, silent sentinel, awaiting its sacred contents. The air is thick with the dust of creation, but also with the quiet hum of anticipation. Soon, this intricate, subterranean heart will be ready to receive its eternal occupant. The air in the chamber is thick with the scent of dried herbs and something else, something ancient and a little unsettling, like earth mixed with time itself. You stand at the precipice of the chieftain's final resting place, the inner sanctum of the kurgan, a space meticulously carved and reinforced, now ready for its most sacred occupant. The hushed reverence among the Scythian elite and the chosen few who gather here is palpable, a heavy blanket of respect that even you, an unwitting time-traveling observer, feel settling upon your shoulders. It's less like a funeral home viewing and more like stepping into a perfectly preserved, extremely important historical diorama, only with the added pressure of not accidentally knocking over an urn. The chieftain, a formidable figure even in death, lies prepared. His body, having undergone a painstaking process of preservation, a Scythian form of mummification, often involving evisceration and packing with aromatic plants and substances, is now adorned in his finest regalia. You notice the intricate details: a tunic embroidered with gold plaques, trousers of richly dyed fabric, and soft leather boots. It's a far cry from your usual sleepwear, which, let's be honest, is probably a faded band t-shirt and sweatpants. His face, though still, bears the faint lines of a life lived with purpose and power. Around his neck rests a heavy gold torque, its ends fashioned into the heads of mythical beasts, glinting even in the dim, flickering light of the fat lamps. This isn't just bling, it's a statement, a testament to his status and the wealth of his people. Then come the treasures, brought in with a solemn procession, each item handled with the utmost care. Imagine trying to move a priceless museum exhibit without the proper equipment, just a lot of strong, very serious people. First, his weapons, a short, curved aconix sword, its hilt intricately decorated with gold and semi-precious stones, lies beside him. A quiver full of bronze-tipped arrows, and a composite bow, powerful even in its stillness, are placed within reach. These aren't just tools of war, they are extensions of the man, meant to accompany him into whatever lies beyond. You ponder if he'll need to fight off any spiritual squirrels in the afterlife. Next, the gold. Oh, the gold! Scythian goldwork is legendary, and seeing it up close is truly breathtaking. Bowls, cups, and ornate plaques depicting scenes of hunting, battle, and mythical creatures are carefully arranged around him. One particularly striking piece is a large gold pectoral, a chest ornament, depicting a complex scene of animals fighting and interacting. It's so detailed, you could spend hours just tracing the lines with your eyes, wondering how on earth they managed such exquisite craftsmanship without modern tools. It makes you think about how much simpler life would be if all your problems could be solved by just having more gold. Spoiler alert, they can't. But it helps. But it's not just the shiny stuff. Personal effects are also placed: a bronze mirror, a comb, and various small boxes that likely contain cosmetic pigments or other personal items. There are also large amphorae, pottery vessels, filled with wine, kumis, fermented mare's milk, to sustain him on his journey. Platters of roasted meat and other provisions are arrayed, ensuring he will not go hungry. It's like packing for the ultimate camping trip, except you're never coming back. Perhaps the most poignant additions are the sacrificed animals. Horses, magnificent steeds, typically up to a dozen or more for a chieftain of this stature, have been ritually sacrificed, and their bodies, sometimes dismembered and neatly arranged, are placed within the burial chamber or in adjacent pits. Their bridles and saddlery, often adorned with gold and bronze, are also included. These horses were not just transport, they were companions, symbols of wealth and power, and essential for the chieftain's journey in the afterlife. You can almost hear the soft whinnies in the still air, a phantom sound of their passage. And then, a more unsettling yet crucial inclusion, his retinue. For a great chieftain, it was customary for some of his closest companions, his concubines, servants, and sometimes even warriors, to be sacrificed and interred with him. Their bodies are carefully positioned, often around the chieftain or in specific sections of the chamber, dressed in their own finery, albeit less opulent than their lords. It's a stark reminder of the social hierarchy and the absolute power held by these rulers, a concept that makes you internally wince a little even as you observe with a historian's detachment. Mainstream historical fact alert: the Pazyryk burials in the Altai Mountains, famous Scythian kurgans, have yielded incredibly well-preserved organic material, including mummified bodies, felt textiles, and even cannabis residue, thanks to the permafrost. It's like a natural deep freeze, keeping everything perfectly chilled for millennia. Among the more curious items you notice is a small, elaborately carved wooden box, distinct from the other treasures. It's not gold, nor weaponry, but it's handled with an almost sacred reverence. Inside, you glimpse what appears to be dried plant matter and a small, intricately worked bronze censer. This is likely part of the Scythian ritual paraphernalia for inhaling cannabis smoke, a practice well documented by ancient Greek writers like Herodotus. It was used not just for recreation, but for purification, spiritual journeys, and perhaps even to induce a trance-like state during funerary rites. It's a quirky tidbit that reminds you that ancient cultures had their own forms of stress relief, though probably a bit more potent than your chamomile tea. The air thickens with a new layer of incense as the final rites begin. Priests, their faces painted with ochre and their hair braided with beads, chant in a low, resonant drone that vibrates through the very ground. They invoke the names of ancestors and gods, guiding the chieftain's spirit on its perilous journey. You feel a shiver, not from cold, but from the sheer weight of belief in this space. It's an immersive experience, making you wonder if any of your online streaming subscriptions offer ancient funerary rites ASMR. Probably not. Once all the offerings are meticulously placed, and the final prayers uttered, the process of sealing the chamber begins. This is not a quick affair. Large, heavy timbers, previously cut and shaped, are carefully lowered and positioned to form a sturdy roof over the burial chamber. Then, massive stone slabs, painstakingly quarried and transported, are laid over the timbers, creating a protective layer against both the elements and, more importantly, grave robbers. It's a bit like building the ultimate, uncrackable safe, but for a whole person and all their worldly goods. Historians still argue whether the complexity of these sealing procedures was primarily for structural integrity, or if it had an additional, significant ritualistic meaning, perhaps symbolizing the final severance of the deceased from the living world and the secure passage into the next. Whatever the precise blend of reasons, the effort is immense. Dust motes dance in the last rays of light filtering down before the opening is finally, irrevocably closed. More earth and stones are brought in, filling the void above the chamber, compacting it layer by layer, burying the chieftain and his treasures under an ever-growing weight of earth. The secrets are sealed, the journey begun. The silence that descends is profound, broken only by the rhythmic thud of earth falling into place. The air hums with a new, deeper resonance now. You've witnessed the sacred ground selected, the initial rites performed, and the inner sanctum, the final resting place, meticulously crafted and sealed beneath your feet. But the true monumental task, the one that will consume seasons and test the very sinews of a people, is only just beginning. You stand at the precipice of the Kurgan's genesis, watching as the great mound truly begins to breathe and swell, layer by painstaking layer. Imagine a giant, primordial ant colony, but instead of ants, it's thousands of humans, all moving with a shared, almost hypnotic rhythm. The earth, that rich, dark soil of the steppe, is no longer just the ground beneath your boots. It is the very building block of eternity. Lines of laborers, stretching back to the borrow pits you observed earlier, snake towards the nascent mound. Each person carries a burden, a woven basket, a stretched animal hide slung over a shoulder, or even just cupped hands overflowing with soil. They trudge, one foot after the other, a slow, unending conveyor belt of human effort. You join one of these lines, feeling the surprising weight of a basket of damp earth. It's heavier than it looks, each step a deliberate lift and placement. The earth, freshly dug, smells of damp roots and minerals, a primal aroma that seems to cling to your clothes and hair. As you ascend the gentle slope of the growing base, the sounds change. The distant shouts from the pits fade, replaced by the closer, more intimate symphony of the mound itself. There's the soft scuff of countless bare feet or simple hide sandals dragging through loose soil, the rhythmic grunt as someone shifts their load, the low murmur of conversations, and the occasional sharp crack of a foreman's whip, not necessarily for punishment, but often as a signal, a sharp punctuation mark in the endless toil. Reaching the edge of the current layer, you carefully tip your basket, adding your small contribution to the ever-growing mass. The earth spills out, a dark cascade joining hundreds of others. Then, you descend, rejoining the empty-handed stream heading back for more. It's a relentless, repetitive cycle, a human tide ebbing and flowing, each movement contributing to the mountain that will one day scrape the sky. You quickly realize that this isn't just about moving dirt, it's about moving a lot of dirt. To give you a sense of scale, some of the largest Scythian kurgans, like the Saloka kurgan, are estimated to have taken years, even decades, to construct, involving hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of earth. It's less building a hill, and more relocating a small mountain range, one basket at a time. It makes you wonder if they ever had bring your own bucket days, or if the procurement team had to source every single container. As the earth is deposited, another group of laborers steps in. These are the compactors. They don't have fancy vibrating plates or steamrollers, of course. Their tools are simpler, yet remarkably effective, their own bodies. You watch as men and women, often barefoot, spread the freshly dumped earth with their feet, scuffing it outwards, evening out the piles. Then they begin to walk, to stomp, to jump. It's an ancient dance, a rhythmic pounding that slowly, methodically, drives the air out of the loose soil, making it denser, firmer. You feel the tremor through the ground as a dozen people stomp in unison, their movements synchronized, a human drumbeat resonating through the earth. Some even drag heavy logs or large, smooth stones across the surface, pulling them with ropes, further pressing down the layer. It's surprisingly effective, though you can almost hear the collective groans of their lower backs the next morning. The sun beats down, relentless. Dust, fine as flour, rises with every step, every stomp, coating your skin, settling in your hair, making your teeth feel gritty. You realize the importance of hydration. Water, carried in leather skins, is precious and distributed sparingly. The sweat stings your eyes, but there's no time to wipe it away effectively. The work demands continuous attention, continuous movement. You learn to breathe through your mouth to avoid inhaling too much dust, though it seems a losing battle. Your muscles ache in places you didn't even know existed, a testament to the primal, full-body workout this job demands. You start to understand why ancient peoples were often described as sturdy. They had to be. The shaping of the mound is a continuous, almost artistic endeavor. It's not just about piling earth, it's about creating a precise, enduring form. Overseers, often older, experienced individuals, walk the perimeter, their eyes constantly scanning the slopes. They use simple sighting tools, perhaps a straight stick and a plumb line, to ensure the angle of the slope remains consistent. They bark orders, gesturing with their hands, directing where more earth is needed, where it needs to be spread thinner, where the compactors need to focus their efforts. Historians still argue whether they used any form of advanced geometry or if it was simply an incredibly refined trial-and-error process guided by generations of accumulated knowledge, passed down like a closely guarded family recipe for the perfect conical hill. What is clear is their uncanny ability to achieve such symmetrical, stable structures without the benefit of blueprints or laser levels. As the days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, you see the kurgans slowly, majestically, take shape. Each layer is distinct at first, a fresh band of darker, looser earth, but with each cycle of compaction, it melds into the layer beneath, becoming a seamless part of the growing whole. You learn to recognize the subtle differences in the soil. Some patches are clay-rich and sticky, others sandy and quick-draining. The builders intuitively understand how these different types of earth will behave, strategically placing them to ensure stability and proper drainage within the mound itself. It's like baking a giant, multi-layered cake, but with dirt, and the oven is the sun, and the rising agent is pure, unadulterated human willpower. One afternoon, you stumble upon a curious sight while carrying a fresh load. A small, perfectly preserved bird's nest, complete with tiny, unhatched eggs, has been inadvertently uncovered and then quickly reburied by the next wave of earth. It's a fleeting, poignant reminder of the living world being slowly subsumed by this colossal monument to the dead. You wonder how many tiny creatures, how many forgotten plants, are now forever encased within these layers, silent witnesses to the Scythian ambition. It's a quirky, almost poetic thought amidst the relentless grind. The work is monotonous, yes, but it's a shared monotony, a collective endeavor that fosters a strange kind of camaraderie. You see the same faces day after day, their expressions etched with fatigue but also a quiet determination. There's a sense of purpose that transcends the individual ache in your back. You are not just moving dirt, you are building a legacy, piece by piece, layer by layer. The sheer physical toll is immense. You develop calluses on your hands, your shoulders ache, and your legs feel like lead at the end of each day. But there's also a deep satisfaction in seeing the mound grow, even by inches. You look back at the distant borrow pits, then at the steadily rising kurgan, and you can almost feel the sheer volume of material that has been moved, the incredible human energy expended. Occasionally, a particularly stubborn patch of earth is encountered, perhaps a vein of rock or a particularly wet boggy section. The overseers direct efforts to bypass it or to break it down with simple picks and wedges. They might even dig small, temporary drainage channels to divert water away from the immediate work area. It's all very basic, very hands-on, a testament to their practical problem-solving skills rather than advanced theoretical knowledge. They don't have blueprints, but they have instincts honed by generations of living off the land and building with its raw materials. As the mound gains significant height, the logistical challenges of simply getting the earth to the top become more pronounced. The slopes become steeper, the ascent more arduous. You see wooden ramps being constructed, simple scaffolding used to create pathways up the ever-increasing incline. It's not fancy, just rough-hewn logs lashed together, but it works, providing a more stable, if still exhausting, path for the endless stream of earth-bearers. Sometimes, you'll see teams of oxen or horses, laden with larger quantities of earth in enormous hide sacks, slowly trudging up the lower slopes, pushing the boundaries of what purely human labor can achieve. The sound of the mound is constant, the shuffle, the grunt, the thud, the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of compaction. It's the heartbeat of the kurgan, a living, breathing entity slowly rising from the earth. You are part of that heartbeat, your own breath synchronized with the collective effort. The sun rises, travels its arc, and sets, painting the growing mound in hues of gold and crimson, but the work continues, often by the flickering light of torches, especially when a critical layer needs to be completed before the dampness of night sets in. You realize that this isn't just a construction project, it's a monumental act of devotion, a physical manifestation of their belief in the chieftain's eternal journey, built one aching muscle, one basket of dirt, one relentless stomp at a time. The mountain grows, imperceptibly at first, then with a steady, undeniable presence, a testament to the enduring power of collective will. You stand at the base of what is now a truly immense hill, a man-made mountain of earth steadily consuming the sky. The initial excitement of the first layers, the sheer novelty of shaping the ground, has long since given way to the gritty reality of a monumental engineering challenge. This isn't just about piling dirt anymore, it's about battling nature itself, about outsmarting gravity and the relentless march of the elements. You start to recognize the quiet ingenuity, the almost meditative problem-solving that goes into every single scoop of earth and every precisely placed stone. The first, and perhaps most insidious, enemy of any earthen structure is water. Oh, water, you sly, destructive force! You watch as heavy downpours turn the freshly laid earth into a muddy, slippery mess, threatening to cascade down the slopes and undermine everything. It's like trying to build a sandcastle while the tide is coming in, except this sandcastle weighs thousands of tons and represents the eternal rest of a king. The Scythians, you observe, aren't just piling earth, they're managing it. They understand that water, if left unchecked, will seep into the core, soften the foundations, and eventually lead to catastrophic collapse, turning their grand monument into nothing more than a soggy, shapeless lump. Imagine building a house only for the walls to slowly melt away. That's the nightmare they're trying to avoid here. To combat this, you notice a meticulous system of drainage. On the surface, the workers are constantly shaping the outer layers, ensuring a gentle slope that encourages rainwater to run down and away from the mound, rather than pooling or penetrating. It's like a giant, very slow-motion umbrella, constantly being adjusted. You see shallow channels being dug around the base, directing the runoff into natural depressions or further away from the sacred ground. But the real genius lies deeper. As new layers are added, you sometimes catch glimpses of thin, carefully placed layers of clay or compacted, impermeable earth. These act like internal raincoats, deflecting any moisture that does manage to get past the surface. Think of it as a series of built-in waterproofing membranes, installed without the benefit of modern tar or plastic sheeting. They're building a giant, layered sponge that's designed to shed, not absorb. You even notice that the burial chamber itself, deep within the mound, is often lined with carefully selected, dense clays or even stone slabs, creating a kind of subterranean vault that aims to keep the chieftain and his treasures perfectly dry for eternity. It's a testament to their understanding of hydrodynamics, even if they didn't have a fancy word for it. Then comes the challenge of stability. This isn't just a hill, it's a precisely engineered structure designed to stand for millennia. The sheer weight of the earth, layer upon layer, exerts immense pressure. If not managed correctly, the mound could simply slump, buckle, or even experience catastrophic landslides. It's like trying to stack 1,000,000 pillows perfectly without them collapsing into a soft, formless blob. You observe the constant, almost rhythmic, act of compaction. As each new layer of earth is brought in, it isn't just dumped, it's spread evenly, then trodden down by countless feet. You can almost feel the vibrations of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people stomping, walking, and even ramming the earth with heavy wooden mallets. It's a full-body workout that makes modern gym routines look like a gentle stroll in the park. They also employ a technique of varying the materials within the layers. You see not just earth, but sometimes layers of carefully placed stones, or even sections reinforced with timber frameworks. These act like the rebar in modern concrete, providing internal strength and preventing the earth from shifting laterally. Historians still argue whether these internal timber structures were purely for stability, or if they held additional ritualistic or symbolic significance, perhaps representing the bones, or skeleton, of the earth body. Regardless of the debate, their practical effect is undeniable. They bind the earth together, creating a more cohesive, resilient mass. The slopes themselves are carefully calculated, not too steep to encourage erosion or slumping, but steep enough to shed water effectively and maintain the imposing silhouette. It's a delicate balance, a testament to generations of accumulated, empirical knowledge passed down through oral tradition and practical experience. The sheer scale of the engineering is, frankly, mind-boggling. Imagine coordinating thousands of people, day in and day out, for years, sometimes even decades, on a single construction project without a single bulldozer, conveyor belt, or even a wheelbarrow in some cases. It's all muscle, sweat, and simple tools, shovels made of wood or antler, baskets woven from reeds, leather sacks. You watch as lines of laborers, like ants on a colossal anthill, carry basket after basket of earth up the ever-growing slopes. Maintaining the integrity of the slope as it gets higher and higher is a constant battle. They often create temporary ramps of compacted earth, which are then either incorporated into the mound or carefully removed and redistributed. This requires not just physical strength, but an incredible logistical mind, an ancient project manager orchestrating a ballet of dirt. One quirky tidbit you recall reading about is the discovery, within some kurgan layers, of what appear to be deliberately placed foundation deposits, not just the chieftain's treasures, but smaller, more mundane items like broken pottery, animal bones, or even simple tools, almost as if they were offerings to the earth itself to ensure its stability. It's a charming blend of practicality and superstition, a quiet plea to the very ground they were moving. Please hold together for us, dear earth. You also observe how they manage the different types of soil. Not all earth is created equal, as any amateur gardener will tell you. Some is sandy and prone to shifting, some is heavy clay that can become waterlogged, and some is a perfect loam. The Scythians, through generations of trial and error, seem to intuitively understand this. They mix and layer different soil types, using the heavier, more cohesive clays for core stability and the lighter, more permeable soils for surface drainage, or vice versa depending on the specific needs of that section of the mound. It's a sophisticated understanding of geotechnical engineering, achieved purely through observation and empirical testing. This isn't just a pile of dirt, it's a meticulously constructed, multi-layered edifice, each stratum serving a specific purpose. A mainstream historical fact is that the largest kurgans, such as the Eurasian kurgan in Tuva, Russia, are estimated to contain hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of earth, requiring an unimaginable amount of labor and coordination. The engineering prowess evident in these structures rivals that of many later, more advanced civilizations. As you observe the ceaseless effort, the constant adjustments, the relentless fight against erosion and gravity, you gain a profound appreciation for the Scythians' ingenuity. They are not just warriors and horsemen, they are master builders, earth movers, and engineers, coaxing a mountain out of the flat step, layer by painstaking layer. It's a quiet, humbling testament to human perseverance and the ancient art of making things stand, even when everything around you conspires to make them fall. The endless cycle of earth moving, the rhythmic thud of tampers, the gritty dust that perpetually clings to your skin and clothes, it's a constant, demanding reality. You've become intimately familiar with the ache in your back, the calluses on your hands, the way your muscles protest with every swing of a shovel or lift of a heavy basket. But then, as if a great, invisible gong has sounded across the steps, a different energy begins to ripple through the vast construction site. A new scent, not of dry earth but of roasting meat and wood smoke, begins to drift on the breeze. The drone of labor gives way to a rising murmur of anticipation, then cheers, then the joyous, raucous strains of pipes and drums. These aren't just breaks, they are vital arteries pumping life and renewed spirit into the monumental undertaking. You realize that the Scythians, for all their fearsome reputation and their nomadic pragmatism, understood something profound about human nature. Even the most arduous tasks require moments of collective joy, shared sustenance, and robust celebration to sustain morale. Think of it as the original team-building exercise, only instead of a trust fall, you're trusting your neighbor not to drop a basket of dirt on your head while you're both balancing on a muddy incline. And the catering? Infinitely better than lukewarm coffee and stale pastries. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues that mirror the distant cooking fires, the tools are finally laid down. A collective sigh, almost audible, sweeps across the plain. You join the streams of laborers, your joints stiff, your body weary, but a new lightness now entering your step. The designated feasting grounds, usually a cleared, flat area near the base of the rising kurgan, are already bustling. Great spits turn slowly over roaring fires, laden with whole roasted sheep and goats, their savory aroma making your stomach rumble in protest at its earlier neglect. You see massive cauldrons bubbling with stews, their rich, earthy scents mingling with the sharp tang of fermented mare's milk, kumis, the potent, frothy drink that fuels Scythian revelry. The air vibrates with sound, laughter, boisterous greetings, the clinking of wooden bowls and metal cups, and the insistent, hypnotic rhythm of drums and the reedy wail of double pipes. You find your spot amongst a group of familiar faces, fellow earth movers whose shared sweat and toil have forged a bond stronger than words. There's a warrior, his face still streaked with dirt, but his eyes now gleaming with anticipation, a young woman, her braids adorned with small bone beads, who has spent the day ferrying water, an older man, his back bent from years of labor, but his spirit still vibrant. This is the community, in its truest, most visceral form. Everyone, from the lowliest commoner to the respected chieftain's kin, participates in these feasts, their social distinctions momentarily blurred by the shared purpose and the intoxicating atmosphere. You watch as large chunks of meat are carved directly from the spit, passed around on wooden platters. It's simple, hearty fare, designed to replenish spent energy, but it tastes like the finest delicacy after a day of back-breaking work. You take a generous portion, the fat crisp, the meat tender and smoky. Alongside it, you're offered bowls of thick, soured cream and flatbreads baked directly on hot stones. And of course, the kumis. You take a cautious sip. It's tart, slightly alcoholic, and surprisingly refreshing, with a distinct, milky tang. It's not quite like anything you've ever tasted, but you feel its warmth spreading through you, loosening your limbs and lifting your spirits. It's certainly more effective than an energy drink, and probably less likely to give you a sugar crash later. Though, you muse, the Scythians probably just crashed into a pile of hay. As the evening progresses, the volume of sound only increases. Music swells, inviting movement. You see groups of men and women, freed from the day's burdens, beginning to dance. Their movements are energetic, sometimes wild, reflecting the untamed spirit of the steppes. Some perform solo dances, showcasing their agility and strength, while others join in communal circles, their feet pounding the earth in unison. It's a powerful display of collective joy, a physical manifestation of their shared identity. You might even find yourself tapping your foot, or swayed by the infectious rhythm, joining a circle for a few clumsy but enthusiastic steps. No one judges, everyone participates. Amidst the feasting and dancing, stories are told. Tales of brave hunts, of ancestors' deeds, of humorous mishaps during the kurgan's construction. Laughter rings out, loud and uninhibited. You hear the deep, resonant voices of elders recounting ancient legends, their words punctuated by the crackle of the fires. These stories are not just entertainment. They reinforce the Scythian worldview, their history, and their connection to the land and their lineage. They remind everyone why they are here, why this monumental effort is so crucial. It's like a particularly engaging history podcast, but with better snacks and a distinct lack of. Please like and subscribe. One mainstream historical fact that becomes abundantly clear during these gatherings is the Scythian people's deep reverence for their ancestors and their oral traditions. They pass down their knowledge, their laws, and their heroic sagas through spoken word, ensuring that the collective memory of the tribe remained vibrant and alive. The construction of the kurgan, in many ways, is a physical manifestation of this reverence, a colossal monument to a revered ancestor, ensuring their place in the ongoing narrative. You notice a group of individuals, distinct by their slightly more elaborate attire and their proximity to the central fires, engaging in what appears to be a more formal discussion. These are the tribal elders and respected warriors, perhaps planning the next day's work, or discussing the logistics of further material procurement. Even amidst the revelry, the practicalities of the kurgan's construction are never entirely forgotten. They are the Scythian project managers, ensuring everything stays on track, albeit with a lot more feasting and less Gantt chart analysis. A quirky or fringe tidbit you observe is the elaborate, often gilded, drinking vessels many of the more prominent individuals use. While most share from communal bowls or simple wooden cups, some display intricately crafted rhytons, drinking horns often shaped like animal heads, or ornate metal goblets. These aren't just for show, they are often passed around with great ceremony, each sip a moment of shared prestige. It's almost as if they're saying, "My cup is better than your cup, but we're still friends because we're building this enormous dirt pile together." Some of these vessels are thought to have been used in specific ritual libations, not just for casual drinking. As the night deepens, the celebrations often take on a more spiritual tone. You might see a shaman, or a revered elder, approaching one of the central fires, perhaps casting herbs into the flames, the smoke curling upwards in fragrant plumes. This is where the line between communal celebration and sacred ritual blurs. You sense the collective energy of the people, their hopes and beliefs coalescing around the rising mound. It's a powerful feeling, almost palpable, as if the very air hums with their shared intent. Historians still argue whether the feasting and communal labor were purely for practical reasons, to feed and motivate the workforce, or if they held a deeper, intrinsic ritualistic significance, binding the community not just through shared effort but through shared sacred experience. Was the act of eating and drinking together a form of blessing the earth, or simply a well-deserved break? Perhaps it was both, a seamless blend of the pragmatic and the profound, as is often the case with ancient cultures. The feasts are also a time for alliances to be strengthened, for disputes to be mediated, and for new bonds to be formed. You witness intricate social dances, not just physical ones, but the subtle interplay of power and respect within the community. A particularly successful hunt might be celebrated with extra portions of meat for the hunters. A difficult section of the kurgan might be tackled by a specific group, earning them renown and extra praise during the evening's gathering. It's a dynamic, living social fabric, constantly being rewoven with each shared meal and each shared song. You realize that these moments of communal celebration are not mere interruptions in the work. They are essential components of the construction process itself. They are the glue that holds the vast undertaking together, transforming a collection of individuals into a unified force. Without these periodic releases, these opportunities for shared joy and replenishment, the sheer scale and monotony of the labor would surely break the spirit of the people. It's the ancient equivalent of a well-managed project with excellent employee engagement, minus the HR paperwork, plus a lot more fermented mare's milk. As the moon climbs high, casting long, dancing shadows across the partially built kurgan, the revelry slowly begins to subside. The music softens, the laughter mellows into contented murmurs. Many simply lie down where they are, wrapped in cloaks, close to the warmth of the dying fires. You find a comfortable spot, the earth still warm from the day's sun, and settle in. The air, once thick with smoke and the scent of food, now carries the faint, sweet smell of the steppes and the distant calls of night creatures. You drift off to sleep, your body tired but your spirit surprisingly light, ready to face another day of moving mountains, knowing that another feast, another celebration, another moment of shared community, awaits. The kurgan rises, not just from earth and stone, but from the collective heart and soul of the Scythian people, nourished by their shared labor and their unifying celebrations. As the inner chambers take shape and the first layers of earth are carefully laid, you begin to understand that this isn't a sprint, it's an epic marathon, a monumental testament to patience and sheer, unyielding effort. The Scythian kurgan, you realize, isn't just built with earth and stone, it's also built with time, measured out in the relentless march of the seasons. You feel the shift first in the air, a subtle change from the initial cool days of early construction. The sun climbs higher, its gaze becoming less a gentle warmth and more a relentless, burning stare. Summer arrives with a vengeance, turning the vast steppe into a shimmering, oven-like expanse. The loose soil you were just moving so laboriously now feels like fine dust, kicked up by every shuffling foot, every gust of wind, coating your skin, drying your throat. You learn that carrying earth in a basket under a blazing sun is a fantastic way to develop triceps you didn't even know you had, and also a deep appreciation for air conditioning. Which, spoiler alert, they didn't have. Dehydration becomes a constant companion. Water, precious and often hauled from distant springs or rivers, is rationed, each sip a small victory against the parching heat. Your lips crack, your skin browns, and sweat streams down your face, stinging your eyes. The ground underfoot, once soft, hardens into a sun-baked, unyielding surface, making the digging and shaping even more arduous. You watch as some workers, overcome by the heat, collapse, their bodies quickly moved into the scant shade offered by temporary shelters or the growing shadow of the mound itself. There's no complaining, only quiet, shared endurance. This is the way of the steppe, the way of life for the Scythian people who are renowned for their incredible resilience and adaptability to the extreme conditions of the Eurasian steppes. Then come the storms. One moment, the sky is an impossibly clear, vibrant blue. The next, dark clouds gather on the horizon with alarming speed, bringing with them a sudden, violent tempest. Rain doesn't just fall, it descends in sheets, turning the dust into instant, clinging mud. The mound, once a proud, rising structure, becomes a slippery, treacherous slope. Tools sink into the mire, and the carefully compacted earth threatens to slide. You're soaked to the bone in minutes, shivering despite the recent heat, as the wind whips around you. The mud, oh the mud. It's the kind of mud that tries to steal your boots, and sometimes your will to live. You consider naming a particularly stubborn patch Barnaby because it just won't let go. Work halts, or slows to a crawl, as everyone seeks shelter, waiting for the deluge to pass, for the ground to firm up enough to resume. As summer wanes, a subtle crispness enters the air. The days shorten, the light takes on a golden hue, and the biting insects that plagued the summer months begin to vanish. Autumn arrives, bringing with it a temporary reprieve. The ground is still workable, perhaps even more so now that the extreme heat has passed, but the urgency increases. Everyone knows what's coming next. The air grows colder, a chill that seeps into your bones, even through layers of thick felt and leather. The work continues at a furious pace, as if trying to outrun the inevitable freeze. You start to notice the breath of your fellow workers misting in the air earlier and earlier in the morning. And then, winter clamps down. It doesn't just arrive, it descends like a heavy, silent blanket. The first snow falls, light and ephemeral, but soon it's followed by heavier blizzards, blanketing the steppe in an endless expanse of white. The kurgan, too, is transformed, its earthen layers now capped with snow, its slopes slick with ice. The earth, once so pliable, becomes hard as rock, frozen solid to a surprising depth. Digging is no longer a matter of shoveling. It's a brutal battle with picks and chisels, chipping away at the frozen ground, each strike sending jarring vibrations up your arms. The baskets, once heavy with soil, now feel impossibly cumbersome, filled with chunks of icy earth. The wind, unobstructed across the vast plains, becomes a cruel, cutting force. It whips snow into stinging blizzards, reducing visibility to mere feet, making every step a challenge. Your hands, even in thick animal skin mittens, ache with cold, and your face feels raw and chapped. Fires are kept burning constantly, their smoky warmth a precious commodity around which workers huddle during breaks, sharing sips of warm, often fermented mare's milk. You see some of the older Scythians huddle closer to the flames, perhaps even inhaling the smoke from burning hemp seeds, a common practice for warmth, comfort, and possibly ritualistic purposes among many nomadic peoples of the steppes. It's a strange, earthy smell that mingles with the wood smoke and the scent of damp wool. Work doesn't stop, but it slows significantly. The days are short, the light dim, and the sheer physical toll of working in sub-zero temperatures is immense. You move slower, your muscles stiff and protesting. The mound itself seems to groan under the weight of the snow and ice, a stark, silent sentinel against the harsh winter sky. You begin to grasp the sheer, multi-year commitment this project demands. Historians still debate the precise duration of these monumental kurgan constructions, with estimates ranging from a few grueling years to over a decade for the largest mounds, a testament to the incredible perseverance required. You start to wonder if the Scythians had some ancient version of a weather app, only it probably just involved a very wise elder squinting at the sky and saying, "Looks like more of the same, lads." Through the long, dark winter, morale is maintained through shared hardship, the promise of spring, and the unifying purpose of the kurgan. The communal feasts and rituals that punctuate the work become even more vital during these colder months, a reminder of the collective will driving this monumental undertaking. Then, gradually, imperceptibly at first, the grip of winter loosens. The sun, though still weak, feels a little warmer. The snow begins to melt, slowly at first, then in a rush, turning the entire construction site into a vast, muddy quagmire once more. Spring arrives, bringing with it the familiar challenges of mud and dampness, but also a renewed sense of energy. The long, dark days of winter are behind you, and the prospect of warmer weather and faster progress re-energizes the workforce. The kurgan, emerging from its snowy shroud, seems to stretch towards the sky, its layers now clearly defined, a visible record of every season endured, every drop of sweat, and every frozen breath exhaled. The relentless march of time, marked by scorching summers and biting winters, has not stopped the mound's slow, steady ascent. It has merely become another layer, another story etched into its earthen heart. The air around you has shifted, a palpable change from the dusty grit and sweat of endless labor. For months, perhaps even years, this great earthen pyramid has been your focus, a relentless demand on muscle and spirit. But now, as the sun dips low, painting the vast steppe in hues of ochre and deep violet. You stand before it, and it is done. The final basket of earth has been meticulously placed, the last layer smoothed, its slopes now a testament to untold collective effort. The kurgan, a silent, colossal sentinel, rises against the horizon, no longer a construction site but a completed entity, breathing with a new, profound purpose. You feel a strange lightness in your limbs, a weariness that is now tinged with awe. It's like finishing a truly massive jigsaw puzzle, only this one is made of mountains and holds the soul of a chieftain. A hush falls over the gathered throng. The usual chatter, the rhythmic grunts of labor, the calls of overseers, all have ceased. Instead, a low hum begins, a deep, resonant sound that seems to emanate from the very earth beneath your feet. It's not a sound of sorrow, nor of joy, but of profound reverence, a collective exhale. You watch as figures begin to emerge from the twilight shadows, a procession unlike any you've seen during the construction. These aren't the laborers, not in their working clothes anyway. These are the shamans, their faces painted with intricate designs, their staffs topped with carved animal effigies that seem to twitch in the fading light. Behind them come the elders, their weathered faces etched with wisdom, and then the chieftain's closest kin, bedecked in their finest furs and gold, their expressions solemn, almost luminous. They move with a slow, deliberate cadence, their footsteps barely disturbing the packed earth, as if treading on sacred ground, which, of course, they are. You find yourself drawn into their silent procession, moving with the crowd towards the base of the colossal mound. The air grows thick with the scent of burning herbs, a sweet, pungent aroma that tickles your nose and makes your eyes water slightly. It's a scent that promises purification and connection to something ancient. As you draw closer, you see that a small, shallow pit has been dug at the eastern base of the kurgan, and within it, a fire now flickers, its flames dancing, casting long, wavering shadows across the mound's vast face. This isn't a cooking fire, it's a living entity, carefully tended, its smoke rising straight into the darkening sky like a prayer. The shamans take their places around the fire, their voices rising in a low, guttural chant that vibrates through your bones. It's a language you don't fully understand, but its meaning is clear: invocation, blessing, farewell. One by one, members of the chieftain's family step forward, each carrying an offering. You see intricately woven felt rugs, shimmering with vibrant dyes, placed reverently on the ground. Bowls of grain, dried fruits, and even small, exquisitely crafted gold ornaments are laid out. It's a final provisioning, a last earthly feast for a journey that transcends the mundane. You half expect someone to pull out a tiny, perfectly formed clay teacup and saucer set, just to complete the miniature picnic vibe, but alas, no Scythian dollhouse accessories here. Then comes the most poignant part of the ceremony. From the flanks of the gathering, a group of warriors leads forth horses. Not just any horses, but the chieftain's finest steeds, their coats gleaming, their manes braided with ribbons. These aren't wild beasts, they are majestic companions, and a profound sadness settles over the crowd. It's a mainstream historical fact that Scythians often sacrificed horses to accompany their leaders into the afterlife, believing these noble creatures would serve them in the spirit world. Today, you witness this ancient rite. The warriors move with a quiet dignity, leading the horses to the fire. There's no struggle, no panic. The horses seem to sense the gravity of the moment, standing still as the shamans perform a final blessing over them. The act itself is swift, solemn, and merciful, performed with a reverence that acknowledges the sacrifice of a loyal companion. Their spirits, it is believed, now gallop ahead, preparing the path for their master. As the last horse is laid to rest near the base of the mound, a new series of offerings begins. This time, the items are more personal, more symbolic. You watch as a shaman carefully places a small, intricately carved bone flute at the base of the mound, its purpose perhaps to call forth guiding spirits. Another adds a handful of earth, but not just any earth. This earth is a deep, rich red, unlike anything you've seen locally. It's said to have been brought from a sacred spring far to the east, a quirky tidbit that suggests the Scythians believed in grounding their most significant rituals with elements from distant, potent places. It's a bit like bringing a souvenir magnet from your vacation, but for eternity. The chants intensify, weaving a complex tapestry of sound. The shamans move around the mound, sprinkling a clear liquid from ornate vessels, perhaps water, perhaps kumis, fermented mare's milk, a staple of their diet. With each libation, a blessing is uttered, a plea for protection, for peace, for the chieftain's safe passage. You feel the energy of the crowd, a collective will focused on this single, monumental act of dedication. It's a powerful experience, this shared belief, this communal effort to send a beloved leader off to the next great adventure. Finally, the shamans turn their attention to the very peak of the kurgan. With deliberate steps, they begin to ascend, carrying what appear to be large, flat stones and bundles of sacred wood. The wind, which had been still, now picks up, rustling the grass and whipping at their ceremonial robes. At the apex, they begin to construct a small, final cairn, carefully placing the stones one upon another, cementing them with a special, potent mixture of clay and animal fat. This is the ultimate seal, the physical closure of the chieftain's resting place. As they work, one of the elders steps forward at the base and begins to speak, his voice clear and resonant, recounting the chieftain's deeds, his bravery, his wisdom. It's a eulogy that isn't about sorrow, but about the enduring legacy he leaves behind. As the final stone is placed atop the cairn, sealing the mound, the chants reach a crescendo, then abruptly cease. A profound silence descends, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the distant cry of a night bird. It's a silence that feels heavier, more meaningful than any sound. This is the moment the kurgan truly becomes sacred. Its purpose is sealed, its secrets guarded. Historians still debate the precise journey the Scythians believe the chieftain's spirit undertook after the kurgan was sealed, and how these final rites facilitated it, but for you, standing there, it feels like the ultimate send-off, a cosmic bus ticket punched and validated. Then, as if a spell has been broken, the silence shatters. A great cheer erupts from the crowd, a release of tension, a roar of triumph. The solemnity gives way to celebration. Fires are lit across the steppe, music begins to play, the thrumming of drums, the reedy sound of flutes. Food and drink are brought forth, and the feasting begins. It's a bittersweet celebration, a joyous affirmation of life even in the face of death, a communal feast that solidifies the bond between the living and honors the journey of the departed. You join in, your heart full, raising a cup of fermented mare's milk, feeling the warmth spread through you. The kurgan stands behind you, a dark, silent mountain, now truly a gate to eternity, its sacred purpose sealed, its story etched into the very earth. You stand at the brink of completion, the massive earthen dome a testament to human will and collective effort. But as the final layers settle, a new, heavy thought descends upon the air, thick and palpable like the dust from the compacted earth. How do you protect this monumental endeavor? How do you safeguard the eternal slumber of a chieftain, whose worldly riches now lie entombed beneath tons of soil, from the relentless, grasping hands of those who would disturb the dead? It's a question as old as wealth itself, isn't it? The Scythians, you realize, were no strangers to the concept of grave robbers. In fact, if you listen closely to the whispers carried on the wind across the steppe, you might even hear the ghostly clink of a spade against a hidden gold torque, long before your time. The very first line of defense, you understand, is secrecy. The true entrance to the burial chamber, if there even was a clear one after the initial placement, is now meticulously concealed. Imagine a giant, earthen shell game. Was it a ramp that was later filled? A cleverly disguised shaft? Whatever it was, the Scythians worked tirelessly to obliterate any trace. You watch as immense, rough-hewn timbers are maneuvered into place, forming a ceiling over the final passage, then massive, irregular stones are dropped into the void, crashing down with a sound that reverberates through the very ground beneath your feet, sealing the way. These aren't just any stones, these are heavy, unyielding boulders, chosen for their awkward shapes, designed to interlock and jam, creating an almost impenetrable barrier. It's like trying to get through a giant, stone-and-dirt jigsaw puzzle that's been superglued together, and then left in a dark, muddy alley. Good luck with that, ancient Indiana Jones. Beyond the immediate entrance, the sheer bulk of the kurgan itself becomes a formidable deterrent. Think about it, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of cubic feet of earth. To tunnel through that undetected, or even detected, would be an undertaking almost as grand as building the kurgan in the first place. You can almost feel the weight of it pressing down, a silent, earthen guardian. They didn't just pile dirt, they compacted it, layer by painstaking layer, making it dense and difficult to penetrate. Imagine trying to dig through clay that's been compressed for centuries, feeling your muscles ache with every meager scoop. It's not exactly a quick smash and grab. Some kurgans, you learn, even incorporated layers of large, jagged stones or thorny bushes within the mound itself, creating a kind of biological and geological barbed wire fence for anyone foolish enough to try and burrow through. It's a bit like burying your valuables under your garden, then planting a particularly aggressive rose bush on top, only on a truly epic scale. But the Scythians weren't just about brute force and physical barriers. They understood the power of the unseen, the psychological warfare against potential desecrators. Rituals, deep and ancient, were woven into the very fabric of the kurgan's protection. You see the shamans, their faces painted with ochre and ash, moving around the mound, chanting in guttural tones, their voices seeming to vibrate through your very bones. They are invoking curses, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors, and the powerful, untamed deities of the steppe to stand eternal guard. Imagine the chill that would run down the spine of a would-be thief, knowing that not just the physical world, but the spirit world, was aligned against them. It's the original "beware of dog" sign, but instead of a Rottweiler, you're dealing with vengeful spirits and ancient Scythian magic. One particularly striking ritual involves animal sacrifices. Not just for the chieftain's journey, but specifically for the kurgan's protection. You witness horses, magnificent and strong, led to specific points around the mound. These aren't just any horses. These are often the chieftain's war steeds, now destined for a different kind of service. After their swift, merciful dispatch, their bodies are carefully placed, sometimes in shallow pits, sometimes within the outer layers of the kurgan itself. The belief, you gather, is that their spirits, loyal even in death, will become ethereal guardians, their ghostly hooves echoing across the steppe to warn off intruders, their spectral neighs a chilling deterrent. Historians still argue whether this was primarily a practical deterrent, providing a biological barrier or a warning system, or purely a spiritual one, relying on the power of belief to protect the site. Some fringe theories even suggest specific breeds or colors of horses were chosen for their perceived magical properties, like a Scythian version of a magical security system with built-in spirit alerts. Beyond the horses, you learn of other, more subtle inclusions. Certain plants, believed to possess protective qualities, are scattered or buried within the earth. Specific types of wood, perhaps from trees struck by lightning, thought to carry the raw power of the sky, might be incorporated into the inner structure. And then there are the less obvious, almost mundane items. Perhaps a broken tool, a discarded piece of pottery, or even a handful of earth from a particularly sacred spot, all imbued with symbolic meaning and placed strategically to confuse or repel those with ill intent. It's like a spiritual booby trap, designed to trip up not just the body, but the mind and spirit of the would-be desecrator. The Scythians also understood the power of time and natural processes as allies. Once the kurgan is complete, it begins to settle. Rain compacts the earth further, grass and hardy steppe plants take root, binding the soil together. Over years, it transforms from a raw construction site into a natural-looking hill, blending seamlessly into the rolling landscape. The very elements become its allies, slowly erasing any signs of its true purpose to the casual observer. Imagine trying to find a specific spot on a vast, undulating plain, with nothing but the wind for company and the knowledge that every hill might be a tomb. It's a needle in a haystack, if the haystack was made of dirt and the needle was gold. But despite all these efforts, both physical and spiritual, the Scythians knew the world was a harsh, unpredictable place. And indeed, a mainstream historical fact that echoes through the ages is the unfortunate reality that many, if not most, Scythian kurgans were plundered. The allure of gold, the promise of untold riches, often proved too strong for the combined might of earth, stone, and ancient curses. The very ingenuity of their construction, the richness of their burials, ironically made them prime targets for generations of tomb robbers who, over centuries, developed their own grim expertise in circumventing these elaborate defenses. It's a sad thought, isn't it? That even after all this monumental effort, after all the sacred rituals and the crushing weight of the earth, greed often finds a way. Yet, as you observe the final rites of protection, you feel a profound sense of purpose in these actions. It's not just about guarding gold, it's about preserving a legacy, ensuring the chieftain's journey to the afterlife is undisturbed, and maintaining the sanctity of this sacred space. The Scythians, in their wisdom, knew they couldn't control everything, but they could certainly try to make it as difficult and as terrifying as humanly possible for anyone daring enough to violate the eternal rest. You stand now, not amidst the clamor of 1,000 workers, nor the frantic energy of last-minute dedications, but in the serene, profound silence of accomplishment. The air, crisp and clear, carries only the whisper of the wind across the steppe, a sound that has echoed here for eons, now brushing against the monumental achievement before you. The kurgan stands. It rises from the flat expanse like a sculpted mountain, a perfectly conical hill, so immense it seems to have been born of the earth itself, rather than built by human hands. Its slopes, now settled and firm, are a tapestry of muted greens and browns, the grass already beginning to reclaim its surface, softening the edges of the colossal undertaking. You walk its circumference, your steps feeling impossibly small against its vastness. The sheer scale of it humbles you, a silent, enduring testament to a civilization's power and its unwavering belief system. It's like the ultimate proof of work in blockchain terms, but instead of digital currency, it's just dirt. A lot of dirt. The sun, low in the sky, casts long, dramatic shadows, accentuating every curve and contour. You can almost feel the weight of the earth, the compacted layers, the millions of individual clods that were once loose soil, now fused into this singular, unyielding mass. It's not just a mound, it's a deliberate, geometric statement, a perfect cone that seems to defy the very laws of erosion and time. This isn't just a burial, it's a landmark, a beacon, a permanent scar, or perhaps, a permanent crown, on the face of the earth. This isn't just a physical structure, it's a solidified memory, a tangible echo of Scythian power. You can almost hear the phantom trumpets, the thundering hooves of their cavalry, the jingle of gold and bronze, all encapsulated within this silent behemoth. This kurgan proclaims, without a single spoken word, the might of the chieftain who rests within, and by extension, the strength and unity of his people. It serves as a stark reminder to any who might gaze upon it, friend or foe, that this land belongs to a people capable of such monumental feats. It's a giant, earthy billboard proclaiming, "We were here. We were mighty." But beyond power, this kurgan is a profound expression of Scythian belief. It's a cosmic bridge, a terrestrial mountain reaching for the heavens, connecting the earthly realm with the spiritual journey of the departed. The chieftain, now interred deep within its core, is not merely buried, he is elevated, given a grand, lasting vessel for his eternal voyage. You recall the careful placement of his treasures, his horses, his companions, all meticulously arranged to ensure his comfort and status in the afterlife. This mound isn't just a tomb, it's a spiritual launch pad, an ancient version of a first-class ticket to eternity. Historians still debate the exact social hierarchy implied by the varying sizes and opulence of kurgans. Was it purely a chieftain's prerogative? Or did other high-ranking individuals also receive such monumental burials, perhaps just a tad smaller, like a slightly less prestigious airline seat? And then, there's the collective will. This kurgan, in its silent grandeur, is a testament to the thousands of hands that shaped it, the countless individuals who moved earth, stone, and timber, day after day, season after season. It speaks of a society capable of immense organization, of shared purpose, of a common goal that transcended individual desires. It's a physical manifestation of communal effort, a monument to the very fabric of Scythian society. Every scoop of earth, every stone laid, every timber placed, was a vote of confidence in their leader, their beliefs, and their shared future. It's a collective masterpiece, a symphony played not with instruments, but with sweat and muscle. You imagine the generations to come, the Scythian children who would grow up under its shadow, knowing it was always there, a permanent fixture on their horizon. It would serve as a constant reminder of their ancestors, their heritage, and the enduring strength of their people. It was a fixed point in a nomadic world, a spiritual anchor. Mainstream historical fact: Scythian kurgans, tens of thousands of them, dot the vast Eurasian steppe from Ukraine to Mongolia, a truly staggering testament to their presence and their burial customs, creating a landscape punctuated by these earthen sentinels. Each one a story, a history, a legacy. The sun dips lower, casting the kurgan in a final, golden glow. You trace the line where the earth meets the sky, a perfect, unwavering curve. It stands, resolute and unyielding, a silent witness to the passage of centuries, a monument to a people who understood the profound power of permanence in a world of constant motion. You'd think after all that effort, they'd at least put up a no-soliciting sign, just to be polite. But its silence is its strength, its mystery its allure. A quirky or fringe tidbit: did you know that some kurgans have been found with evidence of cannabis burning, possibly for ritualistic purposes? Imagine the chieftain's send-off, perhaps a bit more relaxed than we might initially imagine. Talk about a high send-off, right? It certainly adds a new dimension to the idea of preparing for the afterlife. As darkness begins to creep across the steppe, the kurgan seems to grow even larger, merging with the deepening twilight. It's no longer just a mound of earth, it's a timeless legacy, a silent guardian of secrets, a majestic symbol of power, belief, and the indomitable will of a people who shaped their world, and left an indelible mark upon it, etched not in stone, but in the very soil beneath your feet. And somewhere, a future archaeologist is already mentally drafting their grand proposal, wondering if they can get a tax deduction for all this manual labor. Now, as the last sliver of light fades from the horizon, and the stars begin to softly twinkle in the vast, inky canvas above, you feel a deep, calming sense of quiet. The great kurgan stands, a silent sentinel against the endless night, its immense form now a soft silhouette against the cosmic backdrop. All the clamor, all the effort, all the grand ceremonies have dissolved into this profound stillness. You are left with the gentle, enduring presence of something truly ancient, truly significant, something that whispers of time stretching far, far beyond our immediate grasp. Allow your mind to drift, like a feather on the softest breeze, away from the grand scale of the kurgan, and towards the quiet comfort of your own space. The images of compacted earth, of ancient rituals, of collective strength, now gently recede, becoming soft, hazy memories. Feel the quiet settle around you, a peaceful blanket wrapping you in its warmth. The kurgan has done its job. It stands, eternal and serene, allowing you to simply be. Let your breathing slow, your thoughts quiet, as the very essence of rest begins to envelop you. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go, but into the gentle embrace of a peaceful, dream-filled sleep. Everything is calm, everything is safe.